My name is Gordon Shumway, and I've seen a few planets in my day, some thriving, some not so much. Here on Earth I've been looking at Memphis, Tennessee, once a titan of the South, the home of blues, soul and rock and roll, a city with a swagger. But now, there are whispers, questions, is Memphis on the brink? Is it, as some are starting to ask with genuine fear, the next Detroit? A city hollowed out, a shadow of its former self? It's a hard question, but one that demands an answer, especially when you look just a few hours down the road. You see these two cities, both in Tennessee, both with rich histories, but their current stories, they couldn't be more different. One, Nashville, is exploding. It's a magnet for money, for people, for hype. A southern powerhouse in the making, attracting new residents and businesses at a dizzying pace. The other, Memphis, is fighting for survival. It's grappling with problems that seem to grow by the day, problems that threaten its very core. How did this happen? Why is one soaring while the other stumbles? That's what I came here to find out. When you start digging into Memphis's struggles, one issue hits you like a runaway freight train crime. It's not just a problem here, it's a full-blown crisis, a tsunami washing over the city. I've looked at the numbers, and they're staggering. Memphis consistently ranks near the top, if not at the top, for violent crime among major U.S. cities. We're talking about assaults, robberies, carjackings, the kind of crime that makes everyday citizens feel unsafe in their own neighborhoods, their own homes. It's a constant, gnawing fear that erodes the quality of life and makes people wonder if this is any place to raise a family or build a future. This isn't just media hype, it's the grim reality reflected in police reports and the stories of victims. Then there are the homicides. Last year, Memphis set a grim new record, and this year isn't looking much better. These aren't just statistics, each number represents a life lost, a family shattered, a community traumatized. When a city can't protect its own people, when the most basic promise of safety is broken, everything else starts to crumble. Businesses hesitate to invest, tourists think twice about visiting, and residents who can afford to leave often do. The ripple effects are enormous, touching every aspect of life in Memphis. It's a heavy burden for a city to carry, and it's dragging Memphis down, making recovery an uphill battle against a tide of violence. It's so bad, even major employers are sounding the alarm. FedEx, a company synonymous with Memphis, a global giant headquartered right here, reportedly warned its own employees about the dangers of being out and about in certain parts of the city, even near their own facilities. Think about that. When a pillar of your community, your largest employer, feels compelled to issue safety warnings, you know you're in deep trouble. It's a vote of no confidence, not in the people, but in the city's ability to maintain basic order. How can you attract new talent or new businesses when your existing corporate citizens are literally telling their staff to be extra careful just living and working here? It's a chilling indicator of just how pervasive the crime problem has become. With crime raging, it's no surprise what comes next. People are voting with their feet, or, more accurately, with their moving vans. I've seen the data, and it's alarming. Over the past decade, Memphis has seen a net loss of around 30,000 people. 30,000. That's like a small city vanishing. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are families, workers, taxpayers, consumers, the lifeblood of any urban center. When they leave, they take their skills, their income, and their community contributions with them, leaving behind a city that's poorer and more strained. It's a slow bleed, but one that can be fatal if it's not stopped. You see them on the highways, U-Hauls, and moving trucks heading out, not in. I talked to a few folks, and the reasons are painfully consistent. Safety concerns, better job opportunities elsewhere, a desire for better schools for their kids. It's a rational decision for an individual family, but a devastating trend for Memphis. Each departure weakens the tax base, making it harder to fund the very services, like policing and education, that might convince others to stay or attract new residents. It's a vicious cycle. Problems cause people to leave, and their departure exacerbates the problems. Breaking this cycle is one of Memphis's biggest challenges. Nashville, meanwhile, it's a completely different story. People are flocking there, drawn by its booming economy, its vibrant culture, and a perception of greater safety and opportunity. The contrast couldn't be more stark. While Memphis is shrinking, Nashville is bursting at the seams, struggling with growing pains, not existential threats. This tale of two cities within the same state highlights how different leadership, different economic strategies, and different public safety outcomes can lead to wildly divergent paths. One city is desperately trying to plug the dam, while the other is figuring out how to manage the flood of newcomers. The heart of any great city is its downtown. It's the hub of commerce, culture, and civic life. But in Memphis, the heart is showing signs of serious strain. I walked through downtown, and while there are pockets of life, especially on Beale Street on a good night, there's an undeniable emptiness in many areas. I'm told that the office vacancy rate downtown is hovering around a shocking 25%. 1 in every 4 offices, empty. That's a lot of dead space, a lot of lost rent, a lot of missing daytime workers who would normally be supporting local cafes, shops, and restaurants. It paints a picture of a commercial core that's struggling to attract and retain businesses. Think about what that means. Fewer people working downtown means fewer people spending money there. Restaurants that once thrived on lunch rushes are now fighting for customers. Retailers see less foot traffic. The vibrant energy that should characterize a city center feels muted, replaced by a quiet that's more unsettling than peaceful. Iconic buildings stand with floors dark, a visible testament to economic challenges. Once bustling areas now feel eerily quiet during business hours. This isn't just an aesthetic problem, it's an economic one, impacting property values, tax revenues, and the overall perception of the city's vitality. Compare this to what you see in Nashville's downtown or in other thriving Sunbelt cities. Their downtowns are beehives of construction, with new office towers, residential buildings, and hotels constantly going up. Cranes dot the skyline. Here in Memphis, the narrative is too often about what's closing, what's leaving, or what's sitting vacant. Revitalizing downtown Memphis is crucial, but it's a monumental task when the underlying issues of crime and economic stagnation aren't adequately addressed. Without a thriving core, it's hard for the rest of the city to truly prosper. The emptiness speaks volumes about the challenges Memphis faces. We talked about FedEx earlier and their concerns about crime, but the fear isn't just about employee safety, it's about the bigger picture, the risk of corporate flight. FedEx is more than just a company in Memphis, it's an institution. It's the city's largest private employer, a global logistics powerhouse that put Memphis on the map as America's aerotropolis. The thought of FedEx significantly downsizing its Memphis operations, or worse, moving its headquarters, is a nightmare scenario for city leaders and residents alike. It's the kind of economic earthquake that a struggling city might not recover from. The jobs, the tax revenue, the prestige, it's all on the line. The domino effect would be catastrophic. If FedEx were to pull up stakes or even just scale back dramatically, what message would that send to other businesses, both large and small, currently in Memphis or considering a move here? It would be a devastating blow to investor confidence. Why would a new company choose to invest in a city that couldn't even retain its flagship corporation? The loss of ancillary businesses that support FedEx, the hit to the housing market as employees relocate, the further shrinking of the tax base, it would be a cascade of negative consequences. This isn't just speculation, it's a real and present danger that hangs over Memphis. And it's not just about FedEx. Other companies are undoubtedly watching, weighing their options. In today's competitive environment, businesses demand stability, a skilled workforce, a good quality of life for their employees, and crucially, safety. When a city struggles to provide these fundamentals, corporations start looking for greener pastures. Nashville, Austin, Charlotte. These cities are aggressively courting businesses, and they can offer a compelling alternative. Memphis is in a precarious position. It needs its corporate citizens to stay and invest, but it first needs to create an environment where they feel secure and optimistic about the future. Right now, that's a tough sell. A city's future is built in its classrooms, but in Memphis, the foundation looks dangerously weak. I looked into the public school system and the numbers are, frankly, abysmal. Consider this. In some recent assessments, math proficiency for students in Memphis Shelby County schools was reported to be as low as 18%. Let that sink in. Fewer than 1 in 5 students meeting grade-level expectations in a critical subject like mathematics. How can a city expect to build a skilled workforce for the 21st century with educational outcomes like that? It's a recipe for continued economic stagnation and limited opportunities for its young people. Parents see this, and those who have the means are making tough choices. I've heard stories of families moving just across the state line to Mississippi or to other counties, specifically seeking better schools for their children. It's an understandable decision from a parent's perspective, but it contributes to the hollowing out of the city. It means Memphis is losing families, often middle-class families, who are vital for community stability and the tax base. This exodus for educational reasons further strains the public school system, creating a downward spiral that's difficult to reverse. It also exacerbates social and economic divides within the metropolitan area. This isn't just about test scores, it's about the future competitiveness of Memphis. Businesses looking to relocate or expand need access to a well-educated talent pool. If the local school system isn't producing graduates ready for college or careers, companies will look elsewhere. Nashville, again, often boasts about its educational institutions and the quality of its workforce, making it a more attractive destination for industries that require skilled labor. Memphis is caught in a trap. A struggling economy makes it hard to fund education adequately, and poor educational outcomes hinder economic growth. Breaking this cycle requires a monumental effort and a fundamental rethinking of how the city educates its children. When the schools are struggling and high-paying jobs are scarce, another predictable and damaging phenomenon occurs: brain drain. Memphis is seeing its young, educated talent pack their bags and leave for cities they perceive as offering better opportunities. College graduates armed with degrees and ambition look around Memphis and too often see a limited horizon. They see their peers flocking to places like Nashville, Atlanta, Dallas, or Charlotte, cities with dynamic job markets, particularly in tech, healthcare, and other growth sectors. So they follow, taking their potential, their future earnings, and their innovative ideas with them. This isn't just about a few individuals, it's a systemic problem. A city that can't retain its best and brightest is a city that's mortgaging its future. These are the people who would start new businesses, revitalize neighborhoods, contribute to the civic and cultural life of the city. Their departure leaves a void that's hard to fill. I've spoken to young professionals who grew up in Memphis, loved their city, but felt they had to leave to advance their careers. They talk about a lack of challenging roles, lower salary expectations compared to other markets, and a general sense that the city isn't keeping pace with the modern economy. The consequences are far-reaching. It means businesses in Memphis struggle to find the high-skilled workers they need to grow. It means the city becomes less attractive for new companies looking to invest. And it creates a demographic imbalance, with an aging population and a smaller pool of young innovators. Nashville, by contrast, is a magnet for young talent, its universities feeding a vibrant ecosystem of startups and established companies. Memphis needs to find a way to not only educate its youth, but also create compelling reasons for them to stay and build their lives and careers right here. Otherwise, the brain drain will continue to sap the city's vitality. Beyond the more headline-grabbing issues of crime and economic woes, there's a slower, more insidious decay happening in Memphis, the crumbling of its basic infrastructure. I'm talking about the roads you drive on, the bridges you cross, the public facilities that should serve the community. Drive around many parts of Memphis and you'll see it potholes that feel like craters, cracked and uneven sidewalks, bridges showing their age, and public buildings that look neglected and run down. This isn't just an eyesore, it's a daily frustration for residents and a significant impediment to business. Think about the cost of this decay. For businesses, especially those in logistics which are so vital to Memphis, poorly maintained roads mean slower delivery times, increased wear and tear on vehicles, and higher operating costs. For residents, it means car repairs, longer commutes, and a diminished quality of life. It also sends a terrible message to visitors and potential investors. If a city can't even take care of its basic physical assets, how can it manage more complex challenges? It projects an image of decline and neglect, making it harder to attract the very investment needed to fix the problems. This isn't a problem unique to Memphis. Many older American cities face infrastructure challenges, but in a city already grappling with so many other crises, the added burden of decaying infrastructure feels particularly acute. Funding for repairs and upgrades is always a challenge, especially with a shrinking tax base. But deferring maintenance only makes the problems more expensive to fix in the long run. Nashville, while also dealing with growth-related infrastructure demands, is generally perceived as investing more visibly in maintaining and upgrading its public works, further highlighting the disparity. For Memphis, letting its physical foundations rot is a sure way to accelerate its decline. When a city is facing a multitude of crises, strong, effective, and trustworthy leadership is paramount. Unfortunately, Memphis has, at times, been plagued by political scandals and a perception of ineffective governance that only makes things worse. I'm not here to point fingers at specific individuals without exhaustive proof. But the public record and news archives are filled with stories of investigations, indictments, and sometimes convictions of public officials in and around Shelby County. This kind of baggage erodes public trust, which is the bedrock of any functioning democracy, especially at the local level. When citizens don't trust their leaders, they become disengaged and cynical. This isn't just about a few bad apples. It can create a culture where progress is stymied, where decisions are made based on political expediency rather than the long-term good of the city, and where infighting among political factions takes precedence over unified action. I've heard from residents and business leaders who express frustration with a perceived lack of clear vision or decisive action from City Hall or the County Commission on critical issues. When leadership seems divided or more focused on power struggles than on solving problems like crime or economic development, it's incredibly disheartening for the people they are supposed to serve. Compare this to cities that are seen as making progress. Often you'll find a greater sense of cohesion among political leaders, a shared vision for the future, and a business-like approach to governance. Nashville, for all its own political debates, has often projected an image of a city leadership more aligned on key economic goals. In Memphis, the narrative too often seems to be one of political squabbling or scandal, which distracts from the urgent tasks at hand. Rebuilding trust and demonstrating effective ethical leadership is a critical step if Memphis hopes to navigate its way out of its current troubles. Without it, even the best-laid plans are likely to falter. If there was one event that starkly symbolized Memphis's infrastructure woes and its vulnerability, it was the I-40 bridge shutdown. In May 2021, a routine inspection revealed a massive crack in the Hernando de Soto Bridge, a critical artery carrying Interstate 40 across the Mississippi River. This wasn't just any bridge, it's a vital link for commerce and commuters, handling tens of thousands of vehicles daily. The immediate closure was a shock, but what followed was, for many, a scandal of neglect and incompetence. How could a crack of that magnitude go unnoticed for so long? It raised serious questions about inspection protocols and maintenance priorities. The economic impact was immediate and severe. For months, trucks carrying goods, the lifeblood of Memphis's logistics economy, were diverted, adding hours and significant costs to their journeys. Local businesses suffered, commuters faced nightmarish detours. The shutdown reportedly cost the trucking industry millions of dollars per day. It was a logistical nightmare for a city that prides itself on being America's distribution center. Beyond the direct financial costs, the incident was a major blow to Memphis's reputation. It highlighted a failure in a core competency for a city built on transportation and logistics. The blame game that ensued, the questions about how long the crack had been there, and the slow pace of repairs only added to the frustration. While the bridge eventually reopened, the episode left a lasting scar. It served as a costly reminder of the consequences of deferred maintenance, and for some, a symbol of a broader systemic decline. It fueled the narrative that Memphis was a city struggling to manage its essential functions. For a place trying to attract investment and project an image of competence, the I-40 bridge saga was a public relations disaster, exposing a critical vulnerability for all the world to see. Memphis has long prided itself on its dominance in logistics, largely thanks to FedEx and its massive airport hub. And yes, logistics is a huge employer and economic driver here. But I have to ask, is Memphis too much of an economic one-trick pony? Relying so heavily on a single industry, even a successful one, is a risky strategy in today's fast-changing global economy. What happens if that one trick starts to falter? Or if global trends shift demand away from traditional logistics hubs? The city becomes incredibly vulnerable. This lack of diversification is a significant weakness. Look at Nashville. It's not just Music City anymore. Nashville has aggressively diversified its economy. It's a major healthcare hub, with numerous large hospital systems and healthcare management companies. It has a booming tourism and hospitality sector that goes far beyond just music. It's also attracting tech companies and corporate relocations in various industries. This diversification creates resilience. If one sector faces a downturn, others can help cushion the blow. It also creates a wider range of job opportunities, attracting a more diverse talent pool. Memphis, by comparison, seems to have all its eggs in the logistics basket. This over-reliance makes Memphis particularly susceptible to shocks in the transportation sector, or, as we discussed, the potential downsizing or departure of its anchor tenant, FedEx. While other cities are cultivating ecosystems of innovation in biotech, fintech, and green energy, Memphis seems stuck in its traditional mold. There are efforts, to be sure, to nurture other sectors, but they often feel overshadowed by the sheer scale of the logistics industry. To build a sustainable and prosperous future, Memphis desperately needs to broaden its economic base, identify new growth engines, and reduce its dangerous dependency on a single industry. We touched on crime earlier, but it's worth revisiting how this issue specifically impacts economic development and the city's rivalry with Nashville. It's not just about fear, it's about dollars and cents. Businesses, especially those looking to relocate or expand, conduct thorough risk assessments, and a city with one of the highest violent crime rates and murder rates in the nation, that throws up a giant red flag. Memphis's murder rate, for instance, is often several times higher than Nashville's. That's a stark, undeniable statistic that weighs heavily on any decision-maker. Imagine you're a CEO choosing between Memphis and Nashville for a new corporate office or manufacturing plant. You look at the operational costs, the talent pool, the infrastructure, but then you look at the crime statistics. You consider the safety of your employees, the security of your facilities, the potential impact on recruitment and retention. Would you willingly choose to move your people into an environment with higher violent crime risk? For many, the answer is a resounding no. The crime in Memphis acts as a chokehold, squeezing off potential investment and job creation. This directly benefits cities like Nashville. When companies rule out Memphis due to safety concerns, Nashville often becomes a more attractive alternative. It offers many of the same Sunbelt advantages: lower cost of living than coastal cities, a business-friendly environment, but with a significantly better safety record. This isn't just about perception, it's a tangible competitive disadvantage for Memphis. Until the city can get a firm grip on its crime problem, it will continue to lose out on economic opportunities, watching as investment and jobs flow to its more secure neighbors. The crime isn't just a social issue, it's a profound economic one. The crisis in Memphis's public schools has another direct and damaging consequence: an education-driven exodus, particularly to the suburbs of cities like Nashville. It's not just about families moving across the county line to DeSoto County, Mississippi for better schools. Some are making a bigger leap, seeking out communities in the greater Nashville area, known for its highly ranked public school districts in Williamson and Wilson counties. These families are often middle and upper middle class, the very demographic cities need to thrive. They are taxpayers, community volunteers, and consumers. When schools in Memphis are perceived as failing or even just underperforming significantly compared to regional alternatives, it creates a powerful push factor. You see school closures in Memphis due to declining enrollment and budget cuts, a stark visual of a shrinking system. Meanwhile, Nashville's suburban school districts are often expanding, building new facilities to accommodate the influx of families. This isn't just about individual family choices. It's about a large-scale demographic shift that has long-term consequences for Memphis's tax base, its future workforce, and its overall civic health. A city that loses its families is a city in decline. The contrast is, once again, telling. While Memphis struggles with underfunded schools and teacher shortages, Nashville's affluent suburbs can pour resources into their education systems, further widening the gap. This creates a two-tiered system not just within Memphis, but across the state, drawing human capital away from areas that need it most. For Memphis to reverse this trend, it needs a radical improvement in its educational offerings, something that can convince families that their children can get a first-rate education right here. Without that, the U-Hauls will keep heading towards areas with better schools, and Memphis will continue to pay the price. Let's drill down deeper into the FedEx Factor, because it's impossible to overstate Memphis's dependence on this single corporate giant. FedEx isn't just the city's largest employer, its economic impact radiates throughout the entire regional economy. Think about the thousands of direct jobs: pilots, package handlers, IT specialists, executives. Then think about the indirect jobs: the suppliers, the contractors, the local businesses that cater to FedEx employees. The company's annual economic impact on Memphis is measured in the tens of billions of dollars. It's a staggering figure, and it highlights an extraordinary vulnerability. What happens if Fred Smith's vision and commitment to Memphis don't fully translate to the next generation of leadership? Or if global economic pressures force a fundamental rethinking of their operational footprint? Even a significant downsizing, let alone a full headquarters relocation, would send shockwaves through Memphis that are hard to even comprehend. Property values would plummet, unemployment would skyrocket, and the city's budget would face an immediate and catastrophic shortfall. It's the kind of scenario that keeps economic development officials up at night, or at least it should. This level of dependency on one company is simply not healthy for any city. Other cities have faced the loss of major corporate anchors, and the results are often devastating and long-lasting. Think of Detroit after the decline of the auto giants, or Pittsburgh after the collapse of steel. While Memphis has other industries, none come close to matching the scale and impact of FedEx. The FedEx Factor is both a blessing and a potential curse. It has fueled decades of growth and provided a strong identity for the city, but it has also perhaps bred a sense of complacency, a failure to aggressively diversify and build a more resilient economic base. The question for Memphis is whether it can leverage the presence of FedEx to build beyond FedEx before it's too late. Beyond the tangible problems of crime, education, and economic stagnation, Memphis grapples with something more elusive but just as damaging, a serious image problem. Let's be frank. When many people outside of Tennessee think of Memphis, what comes to mind? For some, it's the rich musical heritage, Graceland, the civil rights history. But for an increasing number, especially in the business world or among those considering relocation, the dominant perceptions are often negative: crime, poverty, urban decay. This narrative, whether entirely fair or not, is incredibly difficult to shake. The city has certainly tried to rebrand itself, to highlight its cultural assets, its affordability, and its strategic location. There are passionate advocates for Memphis who work tirelessly to promote a positive image, but these efforts are constantly undermined by the drumbeat of bad news. Another record homicide year, another story about failing schools, another ranking that places Memphis near the bottom for safety or economic opportunity. It's like trying to bail out a sinking boat with a teaspoon while new leaks keep springing. The reality on the ground too often undercuts the marketing slogans. This image problem has real-world consequences. It affects tourism, as potential visitors weigh safety concerns. It impacts talent recruitment, as professionals hesitate to move to a city with a troubled reputation. And critically, it influences corporate investment decisions. Companies are image-conscious. They don't want to associate their brand with a city perceived as being in decline or dangerous. Nashville, on the other hand, has cultivated an image of being its city, vibrant, growing, cool. That positive branding creates a self-reinforcing cycle of attraction and investment. Memphis is stuck in the opposite, a negative feedback loop where its problems fuel its poor image, and its poor image makes solving the problems even harder. Finally, let's look at the role of political leadership, or sometimes the lack thereof, in the tale of these two cities. When you look at Nashville's ascent over the past few decades, you often hear about a relatively unified business and political leadership, a public-private partnership focused on common goals, attracting investment, developing key industries like healthcare, and building the city's brand. There have been disagreements, of course, but generally, there's been a sense of a shared vision and a collaborative approach to achieving it. This alignment can be incredibly powerful in driving a city forward. Now look at Memphis. Too often, the story here seems to be one of political infighting, factionalism, and a lack of sustained, cohesive leadership on the big issues. Whether it's between the city and county governments or within the city council itself, there's often a perception of gridlock and stalled progress. Initiatives get bogged down in political squabbles, and long-term strategic planning can take a backseat to short-term political maneuvering. This makes it incredibly difficult to tackle complex entrenched problems like crime, education reform, or economic diversification. When leaders are pulling in different directions, the city itself struggles to find a clear path forward. This political divide isn't just background noise, it has tangible consequences. It can deter investment, as businesses seek stability and predictability. It can demoralize residents who want to see their leaders working together, and it can lead to missed opportunities, as the city fails to speak with one voice or act decisively. For Memphis to have any hope of a comeback, it needs its political leaders to rise above the fray, forge a common agenda, and demonstrate the kind of unified, determined leadership. Without that, the city risks drifting further into decline, while its rivals continue to surge ahead. So, what's the verdict on Memphis? This is a city with a deep and resilient soul. It's a place that has survived yellow fever epidemics that nearly wiped it out. It stood at the crucible of the civil rights movement, facing down immense social upheaval. It's weathered economic shocks before and found ways to reinvent itself. The spirit of Memphis is strong. You feel it in the music, you see it in the pride of its people. But this combination of systemic crime, economic erosion, and a crisis of confidence, this feels different. This is its ultimate test. The next 5, maybe 10 years will decide if Memphis becomes one of America's great comeback stories or a truly cautionary tale for other cities. It's easy to point fingers, and believe me, there's plenty of blame to go around from what I've seen. But what matters now is the future. Can the leaders and citizens of Memphis find the will, the unity, and the right strategies to turn this ship around? Or is the current trajectory, the gravitational pull of its problems, just too strong to overcome? I've laid out the challenges as I see them. Now I want to hear from you. What's your verdict? Can Memphis turn it around, or is it too far gone? Is there a path back to prosperity, or is Nashville's shadow just too long? Don't just sit there on your asteroid, get in the comments section and fight it out. Let me know what you think. And if you want more no-holds-barred breakdowns of cities on the edge or planets in peril, make sure you smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We've got more coming. For now, this is Gordon Shumway, asking the tough questions.